Welcome to Level 8 of Verbal Advantage, where the going gets even tougher, but the tough keep on going. If you've been adhering to a daily routine of listening to and reviewing the material, as I recommended in the introduction to the program, then by now you have approximately tripled your normal rate of vocabulary growth by adding dozens of new words to your active vocabulary and resurrecting others from your passive vocabulary. If you haven't been sticking to a routine, however, don't be discouraged. Even if you've been listening off and on and occasionally neglecting to review, it's still likely that since you began listening to Verbal Advantage, you've assimilated many more words than you would have in the same amount of time without the benefit of a disciplined graduated program. And the fact that you've made it this far certainly indicates to me that you're serious about improving your verbal skills and making a commendable effort to expand the boundary of your vocabulary. So, can you feel your verbal muscles getting firmer? Have you been test driving some of your new words in your writing and conversation? I hope so, and I also hope that each time you try out a new word, you will make sure to double-check its definition and pronunciation in a dictionary to verify that you are using and saying it right. Also, don't forget to avail yourself of the printed guide to the program. It will help reinforce what you learn by listening. You can follow along as you listen to the keyword discussions. You can listen to the material first and then follow along when you review it. Or you can read through the guide when you have finished listening and reviewing. However you prefer to use it, the guide is a summary of the essential information in the Verbal Advantage program and an invaluable reference tool. Now let me tell you what you can expect from the last 3 levels of Verbal Advantage. The keywords, synonyms, antonyms, and related words that you will learn in Level 8 fall approximately between the 80th and 90th percentile of the English vocabulary. The words in Levels 9 and 10 range from the 90th to 99th percentile. What that means is that from here on in, we will be covering a selection of the most intellectually demanding words in the language, which are understood and used by the best educated and most well-read members of society. So prepare to be challenged by what you're about to learn in these last 3 levels, and hang on to your hat, or your seat, or the steering wheel, or something firm nearby, because the leisurely segment of our linguistic tour is over. From here on, I intend to proceed with celerity, and I hope you will follow me with alacrity. If you're already hurrying to keep up with the words celerity and alacrity, don't worry, because I'm going to tell you about them right now as we begin the keyword discussions for Level 8. Are you ready? Let's go. Word 1. Alacrity. A-L-A-C-R-I-T-Y. Cheerful readiness, eagerness, or promptness in action or movement. The duty of the firefighter is to answer every alarm with alacrity. Synonyms of alacrity include quickness, liveliness, briskness, enthusiasm, animation, zeal, and celerity, which is spelled C-E-L-E-R-I-T-Y. According to Funk and Wagnall's Standard Handbook of Synonyms, Antonyms, and Prepositions, alacrity denotes that cheerful and hearty willingness from which quickness and promptness naturally result. Hence a prompt response. Alacrity springs from some demand from without. Eagerness is spontaneous, springing from within. Eagerness to act may produce alacrity in responding to the call for action. Alacrity and celerity are close in meaning. Both suggest quickness in movement or action, says Webster's 9th New Collegiate Dictionary. Celerity implies speed in accomplishing work. Alacrity stresses promptness in response to suggestion or command. Because celerity emphasizes swiftness, you cross a busy street, complete a project, or run from danger with celerity. Because alacrity emphasizes eagerness, liveliness, or promptness, you meet a challenge, return a telephone message, or respond to a call for help with alacrity. Word 2. Obviate. O-B-V-I-A-T-E. To prevent, make unnecessary, meet and dispose of, clear out of the way. Obviate comes through the Latin verb obviare, to prevent, from the adjective obvious, in the way, the source also of the familiar English word obvious, which means literally lying in the way. The verb to obviate suggests preventing a problem or difficulty from arising by anticipating it and taking effective measures to meet and dispose of it or clear it out of the way. You can obviate trivial objections by coming straight to the point. You can obviate a trial by settling out of court. The necessity of attending a meeting can be obviated by a timely phone call. Word 3. Emolument. E-M-O-L-U-M-E-N-T. Wages, salary, payment received for work. Synonyms of emolument include compensation, recompense, and remuneration, word 30 of level 6. Emolument comes from the Latin emolumentum, the fee a miller received for grinding grain, which comes in turn from the verb emolere, to grind out. By derivation, emolument means that which is ground out by one's exertion. In the daily grind of the modern world, emolument has come to mean wages, pay, compensation for one's labor. Webster's New International Dictionary, 2nd edition, notes that emolument applies to whatever profits arise from office or employment, as the emoluments of a profession. Now that you know the meaning of emolument, and also the keywords perquisite from level 3 and commensurate from level 6, I presume that the next time you consider a new position, you will make sure that the perquisites are attractive and that the emolument is commensurate with your experience and ability. Word 4. Intransigent. I-N-T-R-A-N-S-I-G-E-N-T. Uncompromising, refusing to come to an agreement, unwilling to modify one's position or give ground. Synonyms of intransigent include irreconcilable, unyielding, die-hard, hidebound, obstinate, word 34 of level 1, resolute, tenacious, recalcitrant, intractable, refractory, word 42 of level 6, and obdurate. Antonyms include compromising, flexible, obliging, submissive, compliant, malleable, word 29 of level 2, docile, word 28 of level 7, tractable, deferential, acquiescent, and complaisant. Intransigent combines the privative prefix in, meaning not, with the Latin verb transigere, to come to a settlement, and means literally refusing to settle, unwilling to come to an agreement, uncompromising. The words resolute, tenacious, obstinate, intractable, refractory, obdurate, and intransigent suggest firmness or fixity in ascending intensity. The resolute person is firmly settled in opinion, resolved to pursue a course of action. Tenacious, which comes from the Latin tenere, to hold, suggests holding firmly. The tenacious person adheres persistently and sometimes doggedly to a belief or course of action. Obstinate implies stubborn adherence to an opinion or purpose, and strong resistance to contrary influence or persuasion. Intractable means hard to lead or manage. The intractable person stubbornly resists direction. Refractory means stubborn and disobedient. A refractory person actively resists authority or control. Obdurate means stubbornly hard-hearted. The obdurate person cannot be moved by appeals to the emotions. Our keyword, intransigent, combines the firmness of resolute the persistence of tenacious, the stubborn resistance of obstinate, intractable, and refractory, and the hard-heartedness of obdurate. The intransigent person takes an extreme position and will not compromise or back down under any circumstances. Word 5. Mordant. M-O-R-D-A-N-T. Biting, cutting, keen, sarcastic, scathing. Additional synonyms of mordant include incisive, caustic, trenchant, virulent, and acrimonious. When you think of mordant, think of gnashing teeth. Mordant comes from Old French and Latin words meaning to bite, cut into, nip, or sting. Today, mordant is chiefly used of speech or writing that is biting or cutting in a bitterly sarcastic way. We speak of mordant satire, mordant wit, mordant criticism, or a mordant cross-examination. Word 6. Sagacious. S-A-G-A-C-I-O-U-S. Wise, shrewd, perceptive, showing sound judgment and keen insight, especially in practical matters. Synonyms of sagacious include insightful, discerning, astute, word 3 of level 4, judicious, word 16 of level 5, percipient, sage, sapient, and perspicacious. Antonyms of sagacious include undiscriminating, undiscerning, simple-minded, witless, inane, gullible, credulous, obtuse, and addlepated. The corresponding noun is sagacity, wisdom, shrewdness, keen insight or discernment. Sagacious comes from the Latin sagax, having keen senses, especially a keen sense of smell. In its early days in the language, sagacious was used of hunting dogs to mean quick in picking up a scent. That sense is long obsolete. By 1755, when Samuel Johnson published his famous dictionary, sagacious had come to mean, as Johnson puts it, quick of thought, acute in making discoveries. To illustrate the expanded sense, Johnson quotes the philosopher John Locke. Only sagacious heads light on these observations and reduce them into general propositions. Over the years since then, sagacious continued to acquire dignity, perhaps by association with the adjective sage, which means having or showing great wisdom. Today, says the third edition of the American Heritage Dictionary, sagacious connotes prudence, circumspection, discernment, and farsightedness. That's a far cry from the hunting hounds of yore. Yet, as those words reveal, a faint odor of quick-sniffing canine instinct still clings to the word. In current usage, the sagacious person is no brooding scholar or musing philosopher, but a shrewd, sharp-eyed, keen-witted person who displays instinctive wisdom, swift insight, and sound judgment regarding mundane or practical matters. Thus, we do not speak of a sagacious treatise on the meaning of life, but rather of a sagacious comment on human nature, a shrewd lawyer who asks sagacious questions, or a business executive known for making sagacious decisions, in other words, wise and keenly perceptive decisions. Word 7. Acerbic. A-C-E-R-B-I-C. Sour, bitter, and harsh in flavor, tone, or character. Synonyms of acerbic include tart, caustic, pungent, astringent, acrid, and acidulous. The direct antonym of acerbic is sweet. Acerbic comes from a Latin word meaning sour or bitter like unripe fruit. Acerbic may be used literally to mean sour or bitter tasting, as the lemon is an acerbic fruit. However, the word acidic probably is more often used in this literal sense, and acerbic usually is used figuratively to mean sour, bitter, and harsh in tone or character. An acerbic mood is a sour mood. Acerbic words are bitter words. And someone who is acerbic has a harsh, unpleasant personality. Word 8. Variegated. V-A-R-I-E-G-A-T-E-D. In a broad sense, varied, diverse, showing variety of character or form. In a strict sense, spotted, streaked, or dappled, having marks or patches of different colors, as a variegated quilt, a variegated cat, or a variegated design. The verb to variegate is now often used figuratively to mean to give variety to, diversify. The adjective variegated is also frequently used in this way to mean varied, diverse, or multifaceted, as variegated interests, a variegated selection, or variegated accomplishments. Word 9. Succor. S-U-C-C-O-R. To aid, help, relieve, give assistance to in time of need or difficulty, as to succor the wounded or succor the sick. The noun succor means help, aid, relief, assistance in time of need or distress, as to give succor to the homeless on Thanksgiving. Both the verb and the noun come from a Latin verb meaning to run to the aid of. Although succor and the slang word succor, spelled S-U-C-K-E-R, have the same pronunciation, they are not related and are virtually opposite in meaning. Word 10. Importune. I-M-P-O-R-T-U-N-E. To trouble or annoy with requests or demands. Make urgent or persistent entreaties or solicitations. To remember the meaning of the verb importune, think of some annoying person who interrupts your life at an inappropriate moment and urgently asks you to do something you don't want to do. Salespeople importune you on the telephone when you're not interested and have better things to do. Panhandlers importune you on the street to beg for a handout. Children are experts at importuning parents when they are preoccupied with work or some pressing domestic chore like cooking or paying bills. The corresponding adjective is importunate, troublesomely demanding, persistent in a vexatious way.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following questions. After each one, decide whether the correct answer is yes or no. If someone said, "You have a call from a fella named Ed at Publishers Clearinghouse," would you respond with alacrity? Yes, indeed you would if you think you might be the next $1 million winner. Alacrity means cheerful readiness, eagerness, or promptness in action or movement. Can diplomatic negotiation sometimes obviate war? Yes, to obviate means to prevent, make unnecessary, meet and dispose of, clear out of the way. Do volunteers receive emolument for their services? No, emolument means wages, salary, payment received for work. Is it reasonable to expect an intransigent person to capitulate? No, to capitulate means to yield under specified terms or conditions. Intransigent means uncompromising, refusing to come to an agreement, unwilling to modify one's position or give ground. Is a mordant remark a flattering remark? No, mordant means biting, cutting, keen, sarcastic, scathing. Is a sagacious business decision a smart decision? Yes, sagacious means wise, shrewd, perceptive, showing sound judgment and keen insight, especially in practical matters. Would an acerbic person say that life is sweet? No, not on your life. Acerbic means sour, bitter, and harsh in flavor, tone, or character. Could a stock portfolio, the population of a city, and a horse all be described as variegated? Yes, they could. In a broad sense, variegated means varied, diverse, showing variety of character or form. In a strict sense, variegated means spotted, streaked, or dappled, having marks or patches of different colors. Can you succor a sick child? Yes, to succor means to aid, help, relieve, give assistance to in time of need or difficulty. When you're working hard trying to meet a deadline on a project and people keep calling or interrupting you to ask you to do something for them, are they importuning you? Yes, they certainly are. To importune means to trouble or annoy with requests or demands, make urgent or persistent entreaties or solicitations. That concludes the review for this section. Did you remember to keep track of your answers and calculate your score?
Now let's take a moment to talk about feelings. Loose-lipped speakers and permissive writers may call me a fusspot, a nitpicker, or even an acerbic pedant, but I am nothing less than intransigent when it comes to how I feel. In other words, I make a clear distinction between feeling bad and feeling badly. When I am sick or distressed, I say I feel bad, and when the dentist gives me a shot that makes my mouth numb, I say my mouth feels badly. In his book The Writer's Art, syndicated columnist James J. Kilpatrick offers this explanation of the distinction. If you feel badly, something is wrong with your sense of touch. Your fingers may be numb, or calloused, or gloved, who knows? If you feel bad, you're ill, depressed, worried. Kilpatrick also notes that the same distinction applies to other linking verbs such as smell and taste. If you smell badly, perhaps your nose is stopped up. If you smell bad, try a hot, soapy shower. Mr. Kilpatrick and I are far from alone in our disdain for those who say they feel badly when they mean they feel bad. When the editors of the second edition of the Harper Dictionary of Contemporary Usage, published in 1985, polled the members of their distinguished usage panel on this question, 3/4 of the panelists preferred I feel bad and rejected I feel badly, although a number of them admitted that they avoided the sticky issue altogether by saying I feel terrible, awful, lousy, like death, and so on. Many panelists voiced extremely bad feelings about I feel badly, calling it everything from a bit pedantic to a daintyism to downright god-awful. The late novelist and professor Isaac Asimov had this to say: "Feeling badly is the mark of an inept, dirty old man." The compilers also quote this bit of drollery from the eminent literary critic and editor Clifton Fadiman. Don't feel bad when you hear the broadcaster say he feels badly. Just remember that all men are created equally. The Handbook of Spell, otherwise known as the Society for the Preservation of English Language and Literature, of which I am a vice president, contains this pithy prescriptive advice on the use of bad and badly. It is incorrect to say I feel badly unless you are referring to the act of feeling. If you want to describe your physical condition, feel bad is preferred. Would you like a mnemonic device to help you distinguish between bad and badly? In his useful guide, Grammar for Smart People, Barry Tarshis offers this memory key. We feel bad when we perform badly. Now that you know that you will feel bad when you perform badly, I don't feel bad about saying that learning the next 10 keywords in Level 8 will make you feel good. And here they are. Word 11. Palliate. P-A-L-L-I-A-T-E. To lessen the severity of, gloss over, make something seem less serious or severe, as to palliate suffering, to palliate an offense, or to palliate your troubles with drink. Synonyms of palliate include soften, diminish, mitigate, and extenuate. Antonyms include worsen, intensify, aggravate, and exacerbate. E-X-A-C-E-R-B-A-T-E. Exacerbate and acerbic, keyword 7 in Level 8, come from the same Latin root, and both suggest bitterness or harshness. The adjective acerbic means sour, bitter, or harsh in flavor, tone, or character. The verb exacerbate means to increase in bitterness or severity, as to exacerbate a problem or exacerbate a conflict. The verb to palliate comes through the Latin verb palliare, to cloak or conceal, from the noun pallium, a cloak. Palliate was once used to mean to cover as if with a cloak, to shelter, hide, conceal. This meaning is now obsolete, and today palliate means to conceal or cloak the seriousness of something, make it appear less severe or offensive than it is, as to palliate a social indiscretion or palliate the enormity of a crime. In modern usage, palliate often connotes glossing over or disguising the seriousness of something by making excuses or apologies. Her press agent issued a statement in an attempt to palliate word 12. Wizened. W-I-Z-E-N-E-D. Dried up, shriveled, withered, shrunken and wrinkled. The verbs to wither, to shrivel, and to wizen all imply drying up. Webster's New World Dictionary, Second College Edition, explains that wither suggests a loss of natural juices. The grapes were left to wither on the vine. Shrivel suggests shrinking and curling as from exposure to intense heat. With a heavy sigh, Scott removed the shriveled steak from the barbecue. Wizen, spelled W-I-Z-E-N, suggests shrinking and wrinkling from advanced age or malnutrition. Although the verb to wizen now is somewhat rare, its past participle, wizened, is still often used of persons or parts of the body to mean shrunken and wrinkled, dried up by age or disease. An old person's face may be wizened, or someone's body may be wizened by cancer. Here is a passage from my vocabulary-building mystery novel, Tooth and Nail, in which the context attempts to illustrate the meaning of wizened. An ancient wizened man shuffled into the room, supporting his stooped and shriveled frame with a stout oaken staff. His face was sallow and deeply wrinkled. His cheeks were sunken, and his crown was entirely bald. But for his eyes, which twinkled roguishly, he was a picture of death. Word 13. Captious. C-A-P-T-I-O-U-S. Fault-finding. Quick to point out faults or raise trivial objections. Synonyms of captious include carping, quibbling, cavilling, censorious, and querulous. Q-U-E-R-U-L-O-U-S. Critical, carping, and captious all mean inclined to look for and point out faults and defects, says Webster's Ninth New Collegiate Dictionary. Critical, though often used in a negative sense, is in fact a neutral word. The critical person tries to judge something fairly and objectively by weighing its merits and faults. Strictly speaking, A critical assessment is a fair, impartial assessment, and a critical examination may result in a supportive conclusion. Critical is so often used of harsh or unfavorable judgment, however, that the neutral sense of the word has nearly been lost. It would be nice if we took pains to preserve it. Carping, says Webster's Ninth, implies an ill-natured or perverse picking of flaws. Captious, which comes from the Latin captus, the past participle of the verb capere, to take or seize, suggests a readiness to detect trivial faults or raise objections on trivial grounds. Here's an idea. The next time you find yourself about to use critical in a negative sense, how about giving carping or captious a try instead? Word 14. Emendation. Emendation. A correction, alteration, change made to correct or improve, especially a change made in a piece of writing to correct an error or restore the text to its original state. The verb to emend, spelled E-M-E-N-D, means to make scholarly corrections to a text. Emendation may mean the act of emending, correcting and improving a piece of writing, or it may mean a correction made to a text. Word 15. Truculent. Truculent. Fierce, ferocious, especially in a brutal, bullying, threatening, or aggressively defiant way. The corresponding noun is truculence, fierceness, ferocity, brutal aggression. Synonyms of truculent include pugnacious, belligerent, malevolent, rapacious, and feral, F-E-R-A-L. Antonyms include humane, merciful, compassionate, benevolent, and clement, all of which suggest mercy or mildness, and also timid, demure, diffident, apprehensive, and timorous, all of which suggest shyness or fear. Truculent descends from Latin words meaning savage, fierce, cruel, or grim. In current usage, truculent applies to fierce, savage, or ferocious people, or to behavior that is brutal, threatening, bullying, or aggressively defiant. A truculent nation is a hostile, belligerent nation. A truculent look is a pugnacious or threatening look. A truculent philosophy of business is a brutal, aggressive, rapacious, winner-takes-all philosophy of business. In his Dictionary of Contemporary American Usage, Bergen Evans offers this sentence to illustrate the meaning of truculent. One of my superiors was a truculent fellow who would have loved being a stormtrooper under Hitler. Truculent is now also used of speech or writing to mean scathing, vicious, or vitriolic. Word 16. Expurgate. E-X-P-U-R-G-A-T-E. To cleanse by removing offensive material, free from objectionable content. Synonyms of expurgate include censor, purge, and bowdlerize. The verbs to expurgate and bowdlerize are close in meaning. Thomas Bowdler was an English editor who in the early 1800s published expurgated or cleansed editions of the Bible and Shakespeare's works. People did not appreciate Bowdler's expurgation of the good book and the bawdy bard, so they took his name and made a nasty word, bowdlerize, spelled B-O-W-D-L-E-R-I-Z-E. To bowdlerize is to remove material considered risque, offensive, or obscene, but it connotes doing so out of a prudish or squeamish sense of morality. Expurgate comes from the Latin expurgare, to cleanse, purify, and by derivation is related to the verb to purge, to free from impurities, and the adjective pure. To expurgate means to cleanse by removing that which is objectionable. When something is bowdlerized, that which is considered morally offensive has been deleted. When something is expurgated, that which is considered objectionable for any reason has been deleted. You can bowdlerize Shakespeare by taking out the ribald humor, and you can bowdlerize D.H. Lawrence's novel Lady Chatterley's Lover by removing the passages about sex. But you cannot bowdlerize a textbook because presumably it does not contain anything ribald, erotic, or obscene. However, if people charge that a textbook displays a bias or draws conclusions that they find objectionable, they may attempt to expurgate it, cleanse it by removing the offensive material. Word 17. Reprobate. R-E-P-R-O-B-A-T-E. Thoroughly bad, wicked, corrupt, morally abandoned, lacking all sense of decency and duty. Synonyms of reprobate include unprincipled, shameless, base, vile, degenerate, depraved, irredeemable, and incorrigible. Antonyms include virtuous, pure, righteous, honorable, chaste, unsullied, and exemplary. Reprobate comes from the Latin reprobare, to reprove, disapprove of strongly. In theology, the adjective reprobate means damned, predestined for damnation, and the noun a reprobate means a person rejected by God and excluded from salvation. In general usage, the noun a reprobate means a corrupt, unprincipled person, a scoundrel, and the adjective reprobate means morally abandoned, bad to the core, lacking all sense. Word 18. Spurious. S-P-U-R-I-O-U-S. False, counterfeit, artificial, not true, authentic, or genuine. Synonyms of spurious include sham, bogus, phony, fictitious, fabricated, fraudulent, illusory, apocryphal, and supposititious. Antonyms include genuine, authentic, valid, and bona fide. Spurious by derivation means false, illegitimate. Spurious was once used to mean of illegitimate birth, bastard, and although dictionaries still list this sense, it is now rare. Since it came into the language about 1600, and most often today, spurious is used to mean false, counterfeit, not authentic or genuine. Spurious applies to that which is not what it claims or is claimed to be. A spurious document is not authentic or original, and may have been forged. Spurious gems are counterfeit, not real or genuine. Spurious statements are fabricated, made up. Spurious feelings are affected or artificial. And a spurious charge is false, trumped up, and should be repudiated. Word 19. Volition. V-O-L-I-T-I-O-N. Will, choice, decision, determination. In Latin, the verb velle, V-E-L-L-E, means to will or wish, and the word volo, V-O-L-O, means I will. From these words comes the English noun volition, which may refer either to the power of using the will or the act of exercising it in making a conscious choice or decision. He seems to lack volition implies that he is weak and unable to make a choice or determination. She came of her own volition implies that she exercised her will independently, decided on her own to come. Word 20. Interpolate. Interpolate. To insert, introduce. Specifically, to insert words into a piece of writing or a conversation. The corresponding noun is interpolation, an insertion of words into a piece of writing or a conversation. The verbs to interpolate, interject, and interpose all mean to insert or place between. To interpose suggests the insertion of either a literal or figurative obstacle. You may interpose yourself between two people who are quarreling, or circumstances may interpose an impediment or stumbling block that hinders your progress toward a goal. To interject suggests an abrupt insertion and usually refers to speech. You interject an opinion, an idea, or a suggestion. To interpolate suggests a deliberate, careful insertion of words into a piece of writing or a conversation. Computer word processing programs make it easy to delete or interpolate material and reformat what you have written. Interpolate sometimes suggests altering a text by inserting something spurious, unrelated, or unnecessary. Lawyers may insist on interpolating clauses in a contract, or an author may object to an editor's interpolation.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. Listen carefully to the following statements and decide whether each one is true or false. You can palliate an offense or a troublesome situation. True. To palliate means to lessen the severity of, gloss over, make something seem less serious or severe. A wizened old man is a wise, sagacious old man. False. Wizened means dried up, shriveled, withered, shrunken and wrinkled. A captious comment is an insightful, discerning comment. False. Captious means fault-finding, quick to point out faults or raise trivial objections. Editors often make emendations in a manuscript. True. An emendation is a correction, alteration, especially a change made in a piece of writing to correct or improve it. Truculent people are hostile, brutal, and defiant. True. Truculent means fierce, ferocious, especially in a brutal, bullying, threatening, or aggressively defiant way. When you expurgate something, you speed it up. False. To expedite, word 49 of level 4, means to speed up, hasten the progress of. To expurgate means to cleanse by removing offensive material, free from objectionable content. A person who is reprobate is stubborn and uncooperative. False. The adjective reprobate means thoroughly bad, wicked, corrupt, and the noun reprobate means a person who is morally abandoned, who lacks all sense of decency and duty. A legal charge, a work of art, and a statement can all be spurious. True. Spurious means false, counterfeit, artificial, not true, authentic, or genuine. When you do something of your own volition, you do it independently and willingly. True. Volition means will, choice, decision, determination. To interpolate means to explain or restate the meaning of something. False. To interpolate means to insert, introduce, specifically to insert words into a piece of writing or a conversation. That concludes the review for this section.
Let's continue pumping up your word power with the next 10 keywords in Level 8. Word 21. Adduce. A-D-D-U-C-E. To offer or cite as a reason, as evidence, or as authority for an opinion or course of action. By derivation, adduce means to bring forward. In modern usage, adduce means to bring forward or cite something as a reason, as an example, or as proof in a discussion, analysis, or argument. Lawyers adduce evidence to bolster their case. Politicians adduce facts to justify their position on an issue. Scholars and scientists adduce the results of their research to prove their theories. In writing a report proposing a new marketing plan for a company, an executive might adduce examples of similar marketing strategies that worked for other companies. Word 22. Miscreant. M-I-S-C-R-E-A-N-T. An evil, unscrupulous, vicious person. Someone without principles or conscience. A villain, criminal. Because the world contains so many evil, unscrupulous, vicious people, the language abounds with synonyms for the noun miscreant, including but not limited to scoundrel, rascal, rogue, hoodlum, hooligan, ne'er-do-well, varlet, rapscallion, blackguard, desperado, scapegrace, scofflaw, malefactor, and reprobate, which you learned earlier in this level. Miscreant, which entered English in the 14th century, comes through Old French from Latin and combines the prefix mis, which means bad or not, with the Latin credere, to believe. By derivation, a miscreant is someone who does not believe. For several centuries, the word was used to mean a heretic, a person who rejects or flouts religious principles. But this sense is now archaic, and since at least the time of Shakespeare, miscreant has been used to mean a morally bad person, a vile wretch, detestable scoundrel. The adjective miscreant means villainous, evil, destitute of conscience. Word 23. Quixotic. Q-U-I-X-O-T-I-C. Foolishly impractical or idealistic, especially in an extravagantly chivalrous or romantic way. Inclined to pursue lofty, unreachable goals or far-fetched, unworkable schemes. Synonyms of quixotic include fanciful, whimsical, visionary, utopian, impracticable, and chimerical. Antonyms include realistic, practical, pragmatic, and utilitarian. Quixotic comes from Don Quixote, the hero and title of a 17th century satirical romance by Miguel de Cervantes. Don Quixote is an old man passionately devoted to the ideals of chivalry, fighting evil and rescuing the oppressed. The Don does not realize that his code of honor has become outworn and been replaced with far less lofty, mercenary goals. With his credulous but pragmatic squire, Sancho Panza, he sets forth on a quest to save the world from wickedness. The world, however, holds only ridicule for the visionary Don, who winds up tilting at windmills and making speeches to the wind. Today, the adjective quixotic refers to a person who is extravagantly idealistic or romantic, like Don Quixote, or to an idea or goal that is so impractical and far-fetched as to seem foolish. Word 24. Suppurate. S-U-P-P-U-R-A-T-E. To fester, form or discharge pus. This unusual word applies to wounds, boils, ulcers, or other lesions that become infected and discharge pus. By the way, the word lesion, spelled Lesion, means a wound, injury, infection, or harmful change in some part of the body. When a lesion suppurates, discharges pus, it is called suppuration. And suppuration, if untreated or unchecked, may lead to a state of putrefaction. The verb to putrefy, spelled Putrefy, means to rot or decay. The adjective putrid, spelled Putrid, means rotten, foul-smelling, fetid. And the noun putrefaction, spelled Putrefaction, means rotting, decomposition, foul-smelling decay. Okay, you can stop holding your nose now because this suppurating putrid lesson is over and we're moving on to word 25. Martinet. Martinet. A strict disciplinarian, taskmaster, rigid enforcer of rules and regulations. The word martinet comes from General Jean Martinet, a 17th century French drillmaster who became legendary for subjecting his troops to harsh discipline and for his rigid adherence to military rules and regulations. In modern usage, martinet may refer to a strict military disciplinarian, or more generally to any rigid authoritarian enforcer of rules and regulations. Word 26. Compunction. Compunction. A twinge of regret caused by an uneasy conscience. A pang of guilt for a wrong done or for pain that one has caused another. Synonyms of compunction include remorse, misgiving, scruple, and qualm, spelled Qualm. A stronger synonym is contrition, word 9 of level 5, which means repentance, deep and devastating sorrow for one's sins or for something one has done wrong. Compunction comes through the late Latin compunctio, a pricking of conscience, ultimately from the Latin verb pungere, to prick, sting, pierce, or stab. The Latin pungere is also the source of the English words puncture, meaning to prick, pierce, or stab, pungent, which means piercing or stinging to the smell or taste, as a pungent aroma, and poignant, which means piercing or penetrating to the senses, the emotions, or the intellect. When you feel the prick or sting of conscience, or a twinge of regret for something you have done wrong, or when you feel a pang of guilt for causing pain to another person, that is a compunction. After a year, Ned still had compunctions about ending his relationship with Susie. If your conscience is clear and you have no regrets, you lack compunction. Vanessa grew sick and tired of working for a martinet, and when she finally decided the time was right to quit her job, she did so without compunction. Word 27. Mercurial. Mercurial. Quick to change moods or change one's mind. Having an unpredictable temperament. Synonyms of mercurial include flighty, impulsive, fickle, capricious, word 11 of level 1, volatile, word 47 of level 4, erratic, and protean. Antonyms include stable, fixed, steadfast, invariable, and immutable. Does anything about the word mercurial sound familiar? Can you guess its derivation? If you're thinking that mercurial is related to the word mercury, then you are a sagacious person, both in the current sense of wise, shrewd, perceptive, and in the obsolete sense of quick in picking up a scent, in this case, an etymological scent. The ancient Roman god Mercury, known to the Greeks as Hermes, was the messenger or courier of the gods, but he had many other responsibilities as well. He was the deity who conducted the souls of the dead to the underworld, and also the god of commerce, travel, eloquence, and thievery. Those ancient Greeks and Romans covered all the bases, didn't they? Mercury is usually depicted wearing a winged helmet and winged sandals to show his fleet-footedness. And as Hermes, he also carried a winged staff with two serpents coiled around it. That staff, which now serves as the symbol of the medical profession, is called a caduceus. Caduceus. I'm sure that doctors today view the caduceus as a symbol of their devotion to providing swift, efficient health care, but I must confess I find it nothing short of hilarious that the medical profession has chosen a symbol from an ancient god who governed commerce, travel, eloquence, and thievery, and who escorted the dead to their final resting place. Because of the various hats worn by the god Mercury, the adjective mercurial has been used to mean everything from swift, quick-witted, and eloquent to shrewd, clever, and thieving. Dictionaries still list these words under the definition having the characteristics attributed to the god Mercury. But in current usage, the word most often is used to mean like the element mercury, which is also called quicksilver. As you know, mercury is used in thermometers, and it is highly responsive to changes in temperature. Like the mercury in a thermometer, that which is mercurial is changeable, fickle, or capricious. The mercurial person has an unpredictable temperament and is quick to change moods. Word 28. Nostrum. Nostrum. A quack remedy or medicine, a panacea. Hence, a dubious or dishonest plan or scheme for curing a social or political problem. Nostrum comes from the Latin noster, which means hour. In days of yore, the charlatan and the mountebank, two unsavory types that I discussed in Word 17 of Level 4, would sell their panacea or cure-all by calling it a nostrum, meaning literally our remedy. As a result, the word nostrum came to mean a medicine whose ingredients are kept secret and whose preparer makes exaggerated claims about its effectiveness, which has not been proved. That definition is still in good standing, as a trip to any health food store will prove. Because quack remedies can be applied not only to the ills of the body, but also to the ills of the body politic, in modern usage, nostrum has also come to mean a dubious or dishonest plan or scheme for curing a social or political problem. Throughout society today, from the bars to the talk shows to the hallowed halls of government, you can hear quacks, eccentrics, and downright weirdos proposing their nostrums for the ills of the world. Word 29. Propitiate. Propitiate. To appease, gain or regain the goodwill or favor of. Cause to become favorably inclined. Synonyms of propitiate include conciliate, pacify, mollify, placate, and assuage, Word 37 of Level 2. Antonyms include alienate, offend, antagonize, estrange, and disaffect. The corresponding noun is propitiation, appeasement, conciliation, the act of getting into the good graces of. The verb to propitiate comes from Latin and means literally to soothe, appease, render favorable. From the same source comes the adjective propitious, which refers to favorable conditions or a favorable time for doing something, as a propitious time for buyers in the real estate market. In modern usage, To propitiate means to cause to become favorably inclined, to win the goodwill of someone or something despite opposition or hostility. Typically, you propitiate a higher power, such as your boss, your parents, the Internal Revenue Service, or your God. Word 30. Efficacy. E-F-F-I-C-A-C-Y. Effectiveness. The power to produce a desired effect or result. Efficacy applies to things that have the power to produce an intended effect. We speak of the efficacy of a drug, a scientific method, or an advertising campaign. The corresponding adjective is efficacious, which means effective, capable of producing a desired effect or result, as an efficacious law, an efficacious policy, or an efficacious marketing plan.
Let's review the 10 key words you've just learned. This time, I'm going to give you 2 words, and you decide if they are synonyms or antonyms. Are you ready? Here we go. To cite and to adduce are synonyms. To adduce means to offer or cite as a reason, as evidence, or as authority for an opinion or course of action. Malefactor and miscreant are synonyms. Both words describe criminals or wrongdoers. A malefactor is a person who has done something bad or illegal. A miscreant is an evil, unscrupulous, vicious person, someone without principles or conscience. Pragmatic and quixotic are antonyms. Pragmatic means practical, realistic. Quixotic means foolishly impractical or idealistic, inclined to pursue lofty, unreachable goals or far-fetched, unworkable schemes. To fester and to suppurate are synonyms. To suppurate means to fester, form or discharge pus. Pushover and Martinet are antonyms. Pushover is an informal but useful word for someone who is soft-hearted and easily manipulated. A martinet is a strict disciplinarian, taskmaster, rigid enforcer of rules and regulations. Compunction and regret are synonyms. Compunction is a twinge of regret caused by an uneasy conscience, a pang of guilt for a wrong done or for pain that one has caused another. Capricious and mercurial are synonyms. Mercurial means quick to change moods or change one's mind, having an unpredictable temperament. Capricious, volatile, fickle. Panacea and nostrum are synonyms. A panacea is a cure for all ills. A nostrum is a quack remedy or medicine, or a dubious or dishonest plan or scheme for curing a social or political problem. Alienate and propitiate are antonyms. To propitiate means to appease, gain or regain the goodwill or favor of, cause to become favorably inclined. Uselessness and efficacy are antonyms. Efficacy means effectiveness, the power to produce a desired effect or result. That concludes the review for this section. If you answered fewer than 8 of the questions correctly in this quiz, remember to listen to the keyword discussions again before moving ahead in the program.